Good morning. Thank you for joining me today. This morning we'll be in Isaiah chapter 3, verse 1 through chapter 5, verse 30. Look, the sovereign Lord who commands armies is about to remove from Jerusalem and Judah every source of security, including all the food and water, the mighty men and warriors, judges and prophets, omen readers and leaders, captains of groups of 50, the respected citizens, advisors and those skilled in magical arts, and those who know incantations. The Lord says, I will make youths their officials. Malicious young men will rule over them. The people will treat each other harshly. Men will oppose each other. Neighbors will fight. Youths will proudly defy the elderly, and riffraff will challenge those who were once respected. Indeed, a man will grab his brother right in his father's house and say, You own a coat, you be our leader. This heap of ruins will be under your control. At that time the brother will shout, I am no doctor, I have no food or coat in my house. Don't make me a leader of the people. Jerusalem certainly stumbles. Judah falls, for their words and their actions offend the Lord. They rebel against his royal authority. The look on their faces testifies to their guilt. Like the people of Sodom, they openly boast of their sin. Too bad for them, for they bring disaster on themselves. Tell the innocent it will go well with them, for they will be rewarded for what they have done. Too bad for the wicked sinners, for they will get exactly what they deserve. Oppressors treat my people cruelly. Predators rule over them. My people's leaders mislead them. They give you confusing directions. The Lord takes his position to judge. He stands up to pass sentence on his people. The Lord comes to pronounce judgment on the leaders of his people and their officials. He says, It is you who have ruined the vineyard. You have stashed in your houses what you have stolen from the poor. Why do you crush my people and grind the faces of the poor? The sovereign Lord who commands armies has spoken. The Lord says, The women of Zion are proud. They walk with their heads high and flirt with their eyes. They skip along, and the jewelry on their ankles jingles. So the sovereign master will afflict the foreheads of Zion's women with skin diseases. The Lord will make the front of their heads bald. At that time the sovereign master will remove their beautiful ankle jewelry, neck ornaments, crescent-shaped ornaments, earrings, bracelets, veils, headdresses, ankle ornaments, sashes, sachets, amulets, rings, nose rings, festive dresses, robes, shawls, purses, garments, vests, head coverings and gowns. A putrid stench will replace the smell of spices. A rope will replace a belt. Baldness will replace braided locks of hair. A sackcloth garment will replace a fine robe, and a prisoner's brand will replace beauty. Your men will fall by the sword. Your strong men will die in battle. Her gates will mourn and lament. Deprived of her people, she will sit on the ground. 7 women will grab hold of one man at that time. They will say, We will provide our own food. We will provide our own clothes. But let us belong to you. Take away our shame. At that time the crops given by the Lord will bring admiration and honor. The produce of the land will be a source of pride and delight to those who remain in Israel. Those remaining in Zion, those left in Jerusalem will be called holy, all in Jerusalem who are destined to live. At that time the sovereign master will wash the excrement from Zion's women. He will rinse the bloodstains from Jerusalem's midst as he comes to judge and to bring devastation. Then the Lord will create over all of Mount Zion and over its convocations a cloud and smoke by day, and a bright flame by fire by night. Indeed, a canopy will accompany the Lord's glorious presence. By day it will be a shelter to provide shade from the heat, as well as safety and protection from the heavy downpour. I will sing to my love a song to my lover about his vineyard. My love had a vineyard on a fertile hill. He built a hedge around it, removed its stones, and planted a vine. He built a tower in the middle of it, and constructed a winepress. He waited for it to produce edible grapes, but it produced sour ones instead. So now, residents of Jerusalem, people of Judah, you decide between me and my vineyard. What more can I do for my vineyard beyond what I have already done? When I waited for it to produce edible grapes, why did it produce sour ones instead? Now I will inform you what I am about to do to my vineyard. I will remove its hedge and turn it into a pasture. I will break its wall and allow animals to graze there. I will make it a wasteland. No one will prune its vines or hoe its ground, and thorns and briars will grow there. I will order the clouds not to drop any rain on it. Indeed, Israel is the vineyard of the Lord who commands armies. The people of Judah are the cultivated place in which he took delight. He waited for justice, but look what he got, disobedience. He waited for fairness, but look what he got, cries for help. Those who accumulate houses are as good as dead, those who accumulate landed property until there is no land left, and you are the only landowners remaining within the land. The Lord who commands armies told me this: many houses will certainly become desolate. Large, impressive houses will have no one living in them. Indeed, a large vineyard will produce just a few gallons, and enough seed to yield several bushels will produce less than a bushel. Those who get up early to drink beer are as good as dead, those who keep drinking long after dark until they are intoxicated with wine. They have stringed instruments, tambourines, flutes, and wine at their parties, so they do not recognize what the Lord is doing. They do not perceive what he is bringing about. Therefore my people will be deported because of their lack of understanding. Their leaders will have nothing to eat. Their masses will have nothing to drink. So death will open its throat and open wide its mouth. Zion's dignitaries and masses will descend into it, including those who revel and celebrate within her. Men will be humiliated. They will be brought low. The proud will be brought low. The Lord who commands armies will exult when he punishes. The sovereign God's authority will be recognized when he judges. Lambs will graze as if in their pastures. Amid the ruins, the rich sojourners will graze. Those who pull evil along using cords of emptiness are as good as dead, who pull sin as with cart ropes. They say, let him hurry, let him act quickly, so we can see. Let the plan of the Holy One of Israel take shape and come to pass. Then we will know it. Those who call evil good and good evil are as good as dead, who turn darkness into light and light into darkness, who turn bitter into sweet and sweet into bitter. Those who think they are wise are as good as dead, those who think they possess understanding. Those who are champions at drinking wine are as good as dead, who display great courage when mixing strong drinks. They pronounce the guilty innocent. For a payoff, they ignore the just cause of the innocent. Therefore, as flaming fire devours straw, and dry grass disintegrates in the flames, so their root will rot, and their flower will blow away like dust. For they have rejected the law of the Lord who commands armies. They have spurned the commands of the Holy One of Israel. So the Lord is furious with his people. He lifts his hand and strikes them. The mountains shake, and corpses lie like manure in the middle of the streets. Despite all this, his anger does not subside, and his hand is ready to strike again. He lifts a signal flag for a distant nation. He whistles for it. They come from the far regions of the earth. Look, they come quickly and swiftly. None tire or stumble. They don't stop to nap or sleep. They don't loosen their belts or unstrap their sandals to rest. Their arrows are sharpened, and all their bows are prepared. The hooves of their horses are as hard as flint, and their chariot wheels are like a windstorm. Their roar is like a lion's. They roar like young lions. They growl and seize their prey. They drag it away, and no one can come to the rescue. At that time they will growl over their prey. It will sound like sea waves crashing against rocks. One will look out over the land and see the darkness of disaster. Clouds will turn the light into darkness. Yeah, a pretty thorough denouncement of Israel here, who was acting wickedly. And you can kind of see why the denouncement is happening, in part because of this parable of the vineyard, which is told at the end of the reading here in Isaiah 5 in the beginning. Comparing Israel to this fertile plot of land which the Lord plants a vineyard in. He tends it, he waters it, he builds up a hedge of protection around it. But when it comes time to harvest, it doesn't produce good fruit. Instead, it produces sour fruit. And so he points out that it's not the fault of the person tending the land in this case. It's just bad fruit. And so, what further purpose is there in providing protection and watering and tilling the land for this bad fruit? Nevertheless, there's still a cry for repentance in here, that they would turn back to the Lord. Their tongues and their doings are against the Lord. Jerusalem and Judah have sinned in what they say and in what they do. In fact, what they say and what they do provoke the eyes of his glory. It is much easier to think that what we do is offensive to God than to think that what we say can provoke the eyes of his glory. But we are commanded to glorify God by what we say just as much as by what we do. Jesus said, "For every idle word men may speak, they will give account of it in the day of judgment. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned." Yeah, so be careful about what you say. Proverbs goes on to say that in the abundance of words, iniquity is unavoidable. So let your words be few. The look on their countenances witnesses against them. The very look on their faces is evidence of their guilt. Either they have the smirk of the reprobate, or the downcast gaze of those under conviction. Impure propensities are particularly legible in the eyes. Whoever has beheld the face of a debauchee or a prostitute knows this. Of these it may be said they wish to appear what they really are. They glory in their iniquity. This is the highest pitch of ungodliness. And they declare their sin is Sodom. They do not hide it. Their sin is openly displayed, and they have no sense of shame. The cultural dynamic in Isaiah's day was probably much the same as in our time. In the name of frankness and honesty, and let's not be hypocrites, all kinds of sin are approved, and no one is allowed to proclaim a standard unless they live up to it perfectly. Outward decency is important. It is important not to talk about many sins, even though they exist and sometimes touch the church. It is through these means that God's people declare a standard, even though they or the world do not perfectly measure up to a standard. Ephesians 5:12. For it is shameful even to speak of those things which are done by them in secret. Yeah, I mean, at times. Sometimes it's best to bring things out into the light, though, if it's a secret sin that's being held and not talked about. One of the most destructive lies of our time is that it is wrong or hypocritical to have a standard that we don't live up to. No one has always told the truth, yet it is right and good to teach our children don't lie. It would be wrong and destructive for someone to answer, "You can't tell your child not to lie. You have lied in the past. You're a hypocrite." This attitude in our society translates into a certain result, a wholesale lowering of standards. Also, the charge of hypocrisy is false. It is not hypocritical to promote a standard you don't perfectly meet. Hypocrisy is when you pretend to keep the standard, but do not, or when you do not keep the standard, but think others should. A good point. Yeah, there's also judgment here, I guess, concerning the outward display of ostentatious type articles of apparel. Without a contrite heart. Do we realize how quickly God can take it all away? How much more reason to honor God with what we have instead of indulging ourselves? Hmm. 7 women shall take hold of one man. So many men shall fall by the sword that 7 women would chase after one man. They would be so desperate for marriage that they would not expect their husbands to provide for them at all. Instead, it would be enough to simply take the name of a husband so that it would take away the reproach of being unmarried and childless. In a broader sense, this shows that it is not good for women to be too desperate for marriage. They may marry unwisely and for the wrong reasons. It is also bad when women do not expect their husbands to provide for the household. Anyway, carrying on. 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 1 through 15. I wish that you would be patient with me in a little foolishness, but indeed you are being patient with me. For I am jealous for you with godly jealousy, because I promised you in marriage to one husband, to present you as a pure virgin to Christ. But I am afraid that just as the serpent deceived Eve by his treachery, your minds may be led astray from a sincere and pure devotion to Christ. For if someone comes and proclaims another Jesus different from the one we proclaimed, or if you receive a different spirit than the one you received, or a different gospel than the one you accepted, you put up with it well enough. For I consider myself not at all inferior to those super apostles, even if I am unskilled in speaking, yet I am certainly not so in knowledge. Indeed, we have made this plain to you in everything and every way. Or did I commit a sin by humbling myself so that you could be exalted, because I proclaimed the gospel of God to you free of charge? I robbed other churches by receiving support from them so that I could serve you. When I was with you and was in need, I was not a burden to anyone, for the brothers who came from Macedonia fully supplied my needs. I kept myself from being a burden to you in any way, and will continue to do so. As the truth of Christ is in me, this boasting of mine will not be stopped in the regions of Achaia. Why? Because I do not love you? God knows I do. And what I am doing I will continue to do, so that I may eliminate any opportunity for those who want a chance to be regarded as our equals in the things they boast about. For such people are false apostles, deceitful workers, disguising themselves as apostles of Christ. And no wonder, for even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. Therefore it is not surprising his servants also disguise themselves as servants of righteousness, whose end will correspond to their actions. It's important that the Corinthian Christians understand and trust Paul's apostolic credentials, because Paul is jealous with a godly jealousy for their hearts. Paul's godly jealousy is a good thing, and he will be offended if the Corinthians are seduced by a false understanding of what being an apostle is all about, and especially if they endorse a false gospel here, which Paul says that they are. That is in 11:4, for if someone comes and proclaims another Jesus different from the one we proclaimed, or if you receive a different spirit than the one you received, or a different gospel than the one you accepted, you put up with it well enough, which is not good. The troublemakers among the Corinthian Christians who stirred up contention against Paul didn't only attack Paul. They also attacked the true Jesus by preaching another Jesus. Who was this other Jesus? Because of the way the Corinthian Christians despised Paul's image of weakness and unimpressive appearance, the other Jesus was probably one who knew no weakness, persecution, humiliation, suffering, or death. A super Jesus is another Jesus, not the real Jesus, and another Jesus cannot save. Reminded again of don't make God in our own image, or in some super image that we want. Yeah, you had these super apostles boasting in their credentials, and in doing so, trying to lead people astray from not only Paul's apostolic authority, but also from the very gospel itself. Here Paul becomes even more direct. Without sarcasm, he plainly calls his detractors in Corinth, or at least the leaders among them, false apostles and deceitful workers. Even as Satan may appear as an angel of light, so false apostles may have a good appearance. Paul is showing the Corinthian Christians how foolish it is to rely on image and outward appearances. It is so easy for all people, including Christians, to be taken in by image and outward appearances. Many will only recognize evil if it openly declares itself as evil. But this approach will end up embracing Satan himself, who transforms himself into an angel of light. If Satan were to appear before a human audience, they would be strongly tempted to worship him as a creature of almost divine beauty. he would be regarded as an angel of light. Yeah. Reminds me of Bunyan's The Life and Death of Mr. Badman, where the bad man in question wanted to get a godly Christian wife who had a lot of money, and in order to do so, put on airs of being righteous and good-tempered. But as soon as he got married with her, he dropped all pretenses of being such. Anyhow, Psalm 53, verses 1 through 6. Fools say to themselves, there is no God. They sin and commit evil deeds. None of them does what is right. God looks down from heaven at the human race to see if there is anyone who is wise and seeks God. Everyone rejects God. They are all morally corrupt. None of them does what is right, not even one. All those who behave wickedly do not understand. Those who devour my people as if they were eating bread and do not call out to God. They are absolutely terrified, even by things that do not normally cause fear, for God annihilates those who attack you. You are able to humiliate them because God has rejected them. I wish the deliverance of Israel would come from Zion, when God restores the well-being of his people. May Jacob rejoice, may Israel be happy. Yeah. Ultimately, we're all going to be held accountable for what we've done. And if we don't have Jesus interceding for us, then it's going to be bad. So. Proverbs 22, verses 28 and 29. Do not move an ancient boundary stone, which was put in place by your ancestors. Do you see a person skilled in his work? He will take his position before kings. He will not take his position before obscure people. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me today. Hope you have a great day.